I can hear something calling. It's calling me every day. If taking a chance is a crime, then I've got hell to pay. I've been walking the streets in my mind, trying to find a new day. Keep on searching until I will find, until I find a new way. I'm gonna say something, I hope you don't mind. It's time to rearrange. I walk round in circles, I'm going nowhere. It's time to make a change.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I am your host, Charles Wallace, and welcome to the Bare Essentials podcast. As we continue on our journey to build a stronger community, I'm very excited to share with you all the Kindness Alliance, which is a unique free of charge advertising initiative looking to support businesses that share in our core values. Each episode will look to spotlight a different member, celebrating their contributions and dedication to kindness. Would you like to get involved? Just visit the Kindness Alliance section on our website, www.thebareessentialspodcast.com, or just send me a message. And now, a huge thank you to this week's Kindness Alliance member.
Hi, Joel Maurer, founder of Dink Ninjas. Dink Ninjas was dreamed up and started right here in Austin, Texas, a dynamic pickleball community. We arm pickleballers with the paddles, apparel, and accessories to dink like a ninja. Dink Ninjas is dedicated to supporting mental health awareness and cancer research. Shop our full lineup at dinkninjas.com.
Hey, Oliver, how you doing? Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Appreciate. I'm glad we finally had a chance to connect here. I know you have a lot going on and are really busy, but I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to it. So thanks.
No, likewise. It's good to catch up, and yeah, interested to get more involved.
Ollie, on that note, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Oliver Spence. I run a company called Cybaverse. We've been going around about 6 years now, and really sort of one of the upcoming MSSPs in the UK. My background, I did 10 years in the Marines, which had a fantastic time, and then transitioned inside cybersecurity and set up the business I said about 6 years ago. So that's me.
Sounds good. Definitely an interesting career, and you definitely transition from that career into something that's also interesting, and seems like you have a lot going on. So let me start there. What inspired you to found Cybaverse, and how has your vision shaped the company's growth?
Yeah, sure. No, it's a good question. I mean, when we started, we were just kind of fed up of where we were working. We were working a few different outfits. Things weren't going right. We could see how we wanted to shape our own sort of direction with what we wanted to do in cybersecurity. So me and my business partner, Gemma, we quit our jobs and just said, right, we're going to go ahead and do this. No business plan, just a laptop. Let's get going and on our way. So, which was good. It's been a hell of a ride. Obviously, we sort of started 2 years before COVID. And then obviously, so we had kind of that journey and obviously economic stuff as well. But really, as I said, we didn't start with a big business plan. It was just more like we knew we wanted to kind of do things our own way and potentially have a bit more freedom and time. That's not been the case as we've grown. And about sort of a year in, we were really having good success in penetration testing, so ethical hacking and all that sort of stuff, which is more of my cyber background. And then, yeah, we in terms of, like I said, in the vision strategy, since then, we've just been really looking forwards about what is happening in the cyberspace and how do we ensure that we're keeping up to date with that. So, 4.5 years ago, we moved towards more managed security services. So we set up a SOC, and we've got a 24/7 operations center. And then about a year and a bit ago, we started building out our own SaaS platform, and we launched that 7 weeks ago. And again, that's just keeping up to date with where we need to be on top of to be competitive in the industry, but also remain vigilant against cyber attacks and threats as well.
So before we jump in even further, you mentioned quitting your job, not having a business plan. Just talk me through that, because I think a lot of people that are listening, that watch and listen to this show, they're stuck somewhere in their life, right, Ollie? It's either their job or something, their weight, whatever. But what makes you just say, you know what, the hell with it, let me do it? And then is there any point where you go, damn, what did I do?
Every day I go down, what do I do? But I guess at the time, what I sort of found was I was going through a lot personally. I was having a divorce at the time, and it was a really busy period. But what I was putting in at work, and this was the same in the military, which frustrated me, was I was putting in a lot of effort, and you don't necessarily get what you back out what you put in. So I was, sort of up at 5 o'clock in the morning, working for this consultancy, staying till sort of 7, 8 at night, building up these training labs and training academy. And it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I wanted to build out a consultancy. And I just thought, why am I putting all this effort and my heart and soul into this for someone else? And it was that really defining moment that sort of said, well, I've got the option here. People coming to me for work to build out a consultancy. Why don't I just do it? And we just took that risk. And I think within the first sort of month, we made sort of 10K revenue, and I went, oh wow, that this is possible to do here. Okay, it is big, it's scary, but I think if you don't rip that band-aid off and you try and plan for ages and ages and ages, you might never get around to doing it. At some point, you've got to take a bit of a risk. I'm a big risk taker, so it's easy for me to take risk. However, a bit of forward thinking, ensuring you've got the right contacts and relationships and network there, then you just got to get to the point where you go, right, this is it now. I do it, pull that band-aid off, and off we go. And there's nothing that's going to set you on fire more than when you've got a whole load of bills to pay, you don't have your salary, which you've been used to having for a long period of time, coming in. You go, well, it's on me to sell, it's on me to do a thing, or a business partner who came in a couple of months after, and we just both went, well, there's this, we're committed now, so we've got to get on and do it. So I guess really it's, you've got to put yourself in a little bit of situation where there's some risk involved to go give you that sort of oomph to drive you forwards and get the business going.
So that word risk, I think there's a fair amount of people who hear risk and they think of that as irresponsible. Mm-hmm. Talk me through how you say it's easy for you to take risk. Talk me through the not being irresponsible. Talk me through about how it's a positive thing if you're calculated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see that, and I've been on both sides of the fence of that, of uncalculated risks in my 20s, doing all sorts of silly stuff and taking unnecessary risks, versus being in the business where we've taken calculated and educated risks, and you have to move forwards. And the positive, I think having the right people around you for when you are taking risk, and having the right people to soundboard off is imperative. Gemma, my business partner, who is also my partner, she's I'm a bit of a ball in a china shop sometimes, and we'll go, let's go on this, but she's the realism behind it, and together we sort of mitigate and work through that calculated risk, and it's always for what is the best interest in the business and whatever else. So I think it's, if you are going to take a calculated risk, that you've got good people around you that you can soundboard off and say that if we go ahead and do this, and you've got to have that ability to down your ego and look at someone else's opinion and says, well, that might not be a good idea. Let's analyze why. And you will get through the potential negatives. And then you go, well, that tips the balance, because the positives mean I can do this, 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 and this. Negatives, yes, there are here. And once it tips that scale, then you've got to go for it, really.
I love what you said about having a sounding board. I think sometimes, though, there's a lot of times where our egos, when we put that sounding board together, we sometimes fill it with people who may be more like us and agree with us more. How important would you say it is to make sure your sounding board is filled with, people who they're okay and they will say no if they think it's in your best interest.
100%. And when we started this company, it was very much I hired all ex-military people, because I just said, oh, I've used to work with them, they're the best, and this is what we got. And actually, we found we were quite too similar on lots of ways, and having a broader spectrum of people that you can sort of rely on and talk to. And I think really that's where I've had a lot of success is reaching out to people that I don't know, because actually having people who aren't necessarily connected with you, who aren't involved, it doesn't make a difference to them, right? Whatever they say, it's not going to affect their outcome in the decision. So if you've got, sometimes if you have got a business partner or someone who's got an invested interest in the business, are they always going to give you the honest, clear clarity of what you need? And we feel a pretty good sounding board of reaching out to people that I don't know and becoming either mentors or whatever else, and they can just give me that outright advice where it's not going to be any benefit to them or not, and they can just speak purely candidly. And I think that's really important. I've been working with a sort of mentor, leader, coach for the last year. Gaz Bamford, and ex-UKSF guy, and you know him there, and he's been phenomenal in sort of just having that straightforward, forward-thinking approach, honest discussions that we can have, and there's no interest in, it doesn't matter to him what it does other than like he cares about his guys, but in the outcomes of his advice that he gives. So I think that's really important, having that sort of uninvested approach.
That's fantastic. And yeah, I smiled because I've had Gary on the show, and amazingly, his name has come up in more episodes that he's not even on the show. It's fantastic. And I can see why, because I still try to connect with him at least on a regular basis as far as some of his content, things like that. So that's really cool. I didn't know that, and I think that's fantastic. Well, perfect segue. Let's go there about the military connection. So what about your UK, the armed forces? How has that influenced your approach to not just say leadership and having your own company, but in cybersecurity?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done 10 years in the Marines. I had a really good time. I got to do a lot of really good stuff. When you join the Marines, you can either stay as general duties or go into specializations. And I was one of the GD warriors, as we used to call ourselves, who remained out the specializations. So I got to do sort of, sniper courses, jungle tracking instructor courses, obviously a couple of operational tours out in Afghan. And even at my sort of first tour that I went on, I was probably about 2021 at the time, we had a lot of injuries and a lot of stuff happen. And I was quite quickly brought in to, I'd be a junior leadership role there, that I sort of worked quite closely with sort of troop bosses or sergeants on working through on how we're going to tactically do stuff. And for me, I love that. I love the strategic tactical side of the military as well. Yes, I love getting stuck in and getting involved, but thinking about what we're doing and planning and how we're going to do that sort of approach really struck well with me. And I got my sort of junior command course quite quickly off the back of that. So again, I was one of the very young guys on a junior command course. And that's where leadership stood out for me massively, was you'd have guys that have been in Marines for 15 years who are on this leadership course. I've been in for about 3 years at the time, and used to get a lot of stick back when you could still get stick and it wasn't against, human rights and whatever else. I won't go into too much detail there, but, and it's kind of character building and whatever else. But for me, I really saw that it doesn't matter about time served. It doesn't matter about what people have done. It's about what character can you prove there and then, and how you are. And some of the, my other colleagues who were equally as junior, but the attributes that they shown in how they delivered their presentations, how they acted when the instructors and DS weren't there, that was the leadership qualities that I wanted to have and strive for, is that no matter when you're doing the right thing, whether the doors are closed or they're open and people can see or they can't, you're putting in the right effort and the right qualities to ensure your team has success. moving into cyberspace, what I found from my military career, which has helped me fantastically to kind of get to the position that I've been fortunate enough to get into, is you learn a lot of different things in the military. As I said, I've done a jungle track instructors course, I did a snipes course, so you learn about medical treatments and stuff. You learn a whole range of lots of different skills, and not necessarily become an SME in just one, but just become quite good in lots of different areas. And I've always had this as a bit of an issue with myself, because where it's competitively running when I was younger or anything I do, I'm really competitive, right? Hyper competitive. We've got a table tennis table in the office, and it just goes off when we're playing on there. But I struggle with the point of never being first, right? I found like I'm never going to win anything. I was going to be like third or fifth or something, but be good at lots of different areas. And actually, that's what the Marines is really good for, is just being good at lots of different stuff. And that's quite a niche thing to have. So then coming into cybersecurity, whilst I came through an interesting way, and we can maybe talk about that a bit later, but into penetration testing, and that is a lot of focus on one area. But even within penetration testing, the domain and what knowledge you have to have is very wide. You've got to learn about applications, you've got to learn about infrastructure, cloud, servers, files. There's so much to learn, even just in that one small domain. And what I found since sort of stepping out of pen testing and more into running the business, we served a SOC, an instant response service. It just bodes well, where I've been able to take something on, learn a reasonable amount of knowledge to be able to have conversation around, stand up potentially service in it as well, and then get the right people in who are really the SMEs. And that was really what you do in the Marines, right? Is you have that so much knowledge across multiple domains, and that's probably the biggest thing that helped me get to where I am from the military.
You brought up a lot of, I'm thinking of it, how it translates across multiple industries and life. And I think you said a lot of important stuff there. And I think, how difficult is it? Because I think sometimes as people, when you're good at something, it's really hard to let the responsibility go to someone else and then have to admit that they may be better at it. Yeah. How do you navigate that? Because I think that's what really makes a successful leader, especially in the culture today in the corporate world, is that you have to be willing to allow that responsibility to come off your plate, so to speak. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think I've grown so much over the last 6 years of running the business, maturity wise, of handling those situations of where you need to let go. I mean, my product manager or head of product would probably say I still haven't matured as much, because the product is like where my baby is at the moment. But yeah, you can't, right? Especially if you're going to go run a business, you can't be an SME in everything. And I've done every single job, right? I've done marketing, I've done sales, I've done pen testing, I've helped in the SOC, I've cleaned and scrubbed the toilets, right? I've been everything across the business that you need to do. But if I look at the people that are in the company now and that we've had along our journey, and the technical abilities that they've had, and they are, there's no point in, why would I try and compete in those areas when actually you can clearly see that they are the much better person for the job to deliver those results. And we've got a lady called Juliet who's starting with us as our new CTO coming on board, and yeah, the knowledge that she has across the SOC and instant response and everything else. And you just say, well, this is something that's going to help us better the company. Why would I hinder ourselves? And I think you do see businesses where the senior leaders potentially hinder or stagger the growth of the company, because they don't want to make room and move out of the way and let other people into those roles. So I think for me, it was quite easy, because I knew from the offset that I wasn't a wizard. Our old CTO Ian as well, he was an absolute wizard. And just knew I wasn't one of those people in cyber, right? I knew that actually I can get a really good level of domain knowledge across multiple areas. So it was quite easy to fit those right people in. But yeah, it's something that people definitely have to be aware of. If you're growing your own business, sometimes you're not the SME. In order to let the business grow, you've got to let those right people in.
So what do you say to people that, and I think this is really important, and I think people can get a lot from you from this next question. What do you say to people when they're struggling with, well, if I give up that responsibility, I admit that these people are better, it diminishes my worth as a leader? What do you say to those people?
Yeah, so you got to think, what are you in it for, right? Is the reason why you started the business to be the best penetration tester yourself? Is that what you started the business to do, or is it actually to grow a team of people and be the best penetration testing company, or to be the best cyber, whatever your domain is? And this can be across any industry, right? Not just cyber. But really think about what is the purpose and the goals of the business objectives of why you set out to grow it. If it is just to be that, then you would just stay as a contractor, right? And you can be known as the best individual person doing that, but you won't be able to grow the right team of people potentially underneath you. I think if you want to have business aspirations, then you've got to look what is best for the business, take your ego out of it, what's best for the business, not what's best for yourself, and having those better people than yourself there guiding them technically, and then being able to step away from that delivery, because any leadership role in business, you need to be able to sell, and you need to be able to go out to your client base, whether it's you're selling yourself from investment or being bought out, or new services or products. You've got to be able to sell the business, and that's where your main focus lies. And if you've got a whole fountain of knowledge behind you in which you've done and worked that course of that industry expertise, then that's fantastic. But let someone else, ride that wave as the top person in the company in that domain, and it's going to enable you to grow much quicker and faster. So I think always just link it back to, why did we set up the business? Is it for me to be the best in that domain, or is it that the company's the best in that domain? And that's the question that people need to ask themselves.
Okay, so let's switch gears. Think again, perfect segue. Let's talk a little bit about what you do. I think throughout the interview so far, you've thrown around a lot of words that people may not get. I'll be honest with you, I didn't get them all, but I have somewhat of a technical background, so I may understand more than some of the audience that's listening. So let's high level. What is it that you and your company do, and why is it important?
Yeah, sure. So with cybersecurity, there's a whole load of different domains in which you need to focus on. I guess this, more analogy of taking it back really simple, right, is having a house, right? Everyone, potentially, well, I didn't say everyone, but hopefully you have a house or a home or something that you want to protect. And protecting that comes with lots of different ways and means. It means, potentially testing to make sure that the front door is locked and that the locks work okay. You might have conveyances around if someone's going to buy your house, to check to see if the ground is okay that the house is built on, that it's of stable foundations, that it's built in line with the right industry standards. There's lots of stuff around really that sort of analogy of how you protect a business, protect your home. So what we do is penetration testers, which is one of the areas that we offer, is called ethical hacking, if you like. We try to break into those systems to see where the vulnerabilities are, and to see if they actually exist or not. And that would, in a house analogy, would be someone physically trying to test the windows, test the locks. Can I get in there? And once I do get in, where do I get to? Where can I go? What can I do? I can go to your safe and I found this here, and that then led me to somewhere else. So for us, we do that across business applications, across the infrastructure from an IT perspective. And we do sometimes do red teaming as well, where we actually physically get to go into offices, which is great load of fun, plant little devices around, and that's sort of a favorite side. So that's one area, right? And that's what we call is penetration testing, red teaming on the offensive side. Another big area for us is compliance. So is making sure that we're aligning, or our customers are aligned to industry standards. So again, much as if you look at health and safety or any type of framework, you've got to have some sort of alignment to make sure you're meeting those requirements and standards. So that's another area. You've got training and awareness. So again, if you look at as a business collectively, where could someone get into their data and their systems? Well, it's not just all from the applications or the infrastructure. People tend to be one of the weakest links, and you hear that phrase quite a lot. Is obviously making sure that when, if I was to phone up a company and pretend that I'm the CEO of someone else, or I'm their own CEO, which you can do with AI now, recording their voice, all this sorts of fancy stuff. It's making sure that the people are aware of like what's going on and the potential attacks that can happen to them. So that's a whole other area. And then another area for us is on the defensive side, where we've got our 24/7 SOC, which is Security Operations Center. And that's a team of people monitoring our clients' network systems, cloud environments for any signs of attacks, so we can detect any threats that are happening. We can then respond to them, quarantine them, stop them from happening again, and then work on remediation plans. And this all feeds in together about, as a whole, collectively, what do we do in cyber? Well, we try and, secure people's systems so that attackers can't get in. And we test and align and defend to make sure that, the holes are plugged before the attackers try and get in there and try and breach them.
Yeah, definitely. And I, myself, I have worked for corporations over the years. I mean, I understand it from, I think for most people, when we think about that, we think of the little scam text messages and emails we get. You don't start to think of it on a larger scale of a huge company and how damaging that can be. So definitely important work. And I think it's definitely needed, because I feel like there's so many companies and people that are getting ripped off, because I think all we hear about is the opposite side of what you do.
Yeah.
Even I saw a movie recently about The Beekeeper with Jason Statham, where they were ripping people off. But no, I think that's definitely something good that you and your company are doing. So it's needed. So it sounds like your company, Cybaverse, you're having success. And I wanted to ask you this a little more personal, because you seem like you're a really driven individual. How do you balance the demands of running your business, keeping yourself fit, your personal life? I think I read that you have 3 daughters.
I do indeed. Yeah.
How you manage it all, Ollie?
I don't know. I get asked that question quite a lot. And I think it kind of comes down to, your network, right? And I'm actually going to keep reverting back to that. Is so Gemma works in the business with me, and she's my partner at home, and we've got 3 young girls as well. So we've got a 3, 4, and 7-year-old, and they're all absolute crazy monsters. I do still try and, well, I don't try. I have to go to the gym or do some sort of physical exercise like 3, 4 times a week, just from military habits that, as most military people know, that if you do exercise for a period of time and then try and come off of it, it's like a drug, right? You can't actually pick yourself off of it. So it's difficult, but it's putting sort of some systems in place and having, working with people like Gaz, who spoke with before, about just talking about stuff sometimes. Once a month we have a catch up, just run through what's going on, and then look at ways of how we can strategize to get in those factors to maintain your right appropriate levels, so you don't break, so you don't get burnout and all that sort of stuff. And it sounds like the basics, right? But do the fundamentals really well. So, keep yourself active, get outside, have periods of time where you're not on your phone or technology, like connect with people. And I find this the hardest. On the personal side is being there with the kids, playing with them on the floor when I've got my phone beeping off every 5 minutes about an email or whatever else. It's like, no, I don't need to answer that, with my kids. And having that in your head of how you can switch from one to another is really difficult. We really find that hard. But it's putting those sort of barriers in place to say, right, I get to this time, I come home, yes, we're going to sort this out for work, but that's it now, right? It's kids' time, it's family time, and it doesn't always work, right? You know, I'm not going to act like I've got some perfect system for managing my life, or I go to bed at this time and I'm up in a cold plunge at this. I would love to get to that, right? That's what I love to get to, that sort of health system. But, you know, sometimes you're just in that surviving mode. And I think, you know, if you can survive, you want to go into that thriving mode as soon as you can, but having the right people around you to help you survive, to pull you in when you need to, you know, have a bit of a word with yourself and whatever else. And that's it for me.
I like the word you used there. Survive. You know, it's funny. I think again, sometimes people look at that negatively. Surviving is negative. I mean, hell, I think first thing we have to do is survive before we can thrive. So, I mean, good on you for that. I did want to ask you this, and I thought it was interesting because you're over in the UK and me being in the United States. I'm on East Coast United States. I saw that you are a surfer.
Yes.
And you know, yeah, and I saw the picture behind you. I wanted to ask you about it because I don't think typically, at least from where I'm at, when I think of surfing, I think of West Coast United States, Hawaii, Australia. Not really picturing the UK as a hotbed for surfing. Maybe it is, but always something that I thought was, I never knew how people did it, but I think I wanted to ask you about that a little bit and how some of your military, your business, how it kind of translates, because I think there's a lot to do there with being able to keep your balance and maintain your balance, things like that. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, I went through all phases as a kid, right? You know, went through my grunge, my punk rock, my sort of townies or treble, we used to call it in the UK. But I had a big skate phase, and I carried that on. I loved skateboarding when I was younger, and then I went surfing when I was about 16. And I've always found myself great on a board, but snowboarding as well. But I can't ski, I can't roller skate, I can't, for some reason, put me on a thing with wheels on two legs, and it just goes like I'm a Bambi. But board is where it just feels right. And I was really lucky last year. I got to go to the Maldives for 10 days on a boat trip surfing, and it was so fantastic, right? It really just, yeah, that time without too much technology, with just being there with one of my friends, Dave, and sort of 6 random people, and just the feeling of just being connected. You know, it sounds just cheesy or whatever, but with the ocean, with, you know, the people, you're just having such honest conversations about you know, the surfing, enjoyment of life, rather than all of the stress of, oh, this going on work and whatever else. And for me, I hadn't surfed in 9 months, and I went about four weeks ago. We're lucky we've got this thing called the Wave in Bristol, which is this artificial wave pool which comes up. There's a few wave pools knocking around, so I go to that mostly. But I spent years of getting 5mm rubber on my head and my gloves and my feet, and you look like a big walrus or sea, you know, it depends how big you are. And then you go out to sea paddling around and freezing cold in winter, because that's typically when the waves, you know, will be here in the UK. And you just get on with it, and it's just so nice, right? You don't have your phone there. That's the biggest thing for me, is the 2 hours when you're in the sea or in the wave pool, you haven't got your phone in your hand, so you can't see any of the stuff. In terms of, you know, it's very, there's a lot of waiting around, right? So, and the wave pools is a really good analogy of this, because it can be quite a stressful place for a lot of people who've never been in the wave pool before. The sea's a little bit different, because in the sea, you can just go back out and sit out back. And if you don't want to catch a wave, you don't have to, right? I typically will. I say, I'm not catching this one, but I'm just going to go anyway. And then, you know, when you're knackered. But at the wave pool, you've got nowhere to hide, right? And yes, you have time where you need to rest, but then there's almost a bit of anxiety that comes up again. What's happening on that next wave? You know, and I've got 15 people here watching me, and I'm first, and I'm sitting there, and you think, well, this should be a sport that I enjoy. And I've been going to wave pool for about 4 years now, and I say how this kind of associates to sort of business and life, and bring it in, right? Is there's a lot of time in business when you're thinking or waiting for that wave to come along, and, you know, whether that be investment or sell the business or whatever it is, or launch a product or start the business. and you're sitting right around and you've got that anxiety piece, you've got people watching you who you think, oh, they're going to care and this is going to happen. And you build up this whole stress thing, which is in your head. And most of that is in your head. You know, if you just sit there and breathe or relax or think about nothing else, sing a song, whatever else, those other people aren't really looking. You know, those other people don't really care what you do on that wave. If you mess up, if you fall down, it doesn't make a blind bit of difference to them. They don't really care. You think in your head, these people are going to laugh at you. They're going to, you know, say all this stuff. Doesn't make a bit of difference. And much as in business, you put so much pressure on yourself, looking at what your competitors are doing, working what your friends will think of you if your business fails, or you know, if you don't start, then what happens? And so much worry of like those other people looking at you there, when actually you just want to get on that wave and just think about enjoying it and what are you doing on there and maneuvering up and down and, you know, try and enjoy it. And it's, you know, I tell myself this is easy to talk about it now, right? And but when it is stressful, how do you get through that things? And I think just realizing that actually, wow, I'm in this lucky position. Like we've had really crazy times in the business where we thought, are we going to be able to make it through this? You know, we're bootstrapped, we're self-funded, you know, we put a lot on the line for it. And but sometimes just taking that moment to go, that wave is coming. You know, you've worked hard to get there. You've done all your fitness. You've done all your training. You're there sitting there waiting for that wave. And you sort of say, yeah, like, okay, don't worry about what everyone else thinks. Don't worry about what I'm going to do, how well I'm going to perform. Just enjoy getting on that wave and surfing it. And that's the same with business is just get on. Once you're on there, enjoy it. And then you're fine, you come off it. You have a laugh, even if you fall. You know, if you've got the right people around you, they're laughing, you have a good fun time, and it's no issues. So I think that's how I sort of look at like surfing and transpire that to the business really is it's just get on that wave, take the ride. It's going to throw you off. It's going to be, you know, it's going to throw you underneath, but just get back up and go again. And the more and more times that you do it, the more and more things that you go through, that sort of hardship and stuff of doing that, you'll get to the point where you can ride that wave comfortably. And I think that's it with business. And there's always stuff to improve on. There's always stuff to get better on, but you just got to enjoy it really.
Ollie, I really, really enjoy your outlook, and you're pretty infectious human being. You come across extremely positive. So I really, really appreciate that. I did want to end with this. I wanted to ask you because military, your business, you've had a lot of personal, professional success. But what I wanted to ask you was kind of poignant. If all that success were to disappear tomorrow, who's that man? Who's Ollie that's standing there in front of his three daughters? Who is that guy?
That's a really good question. Yeah, and I think I've gone through iterations of asking myself that same question multiple times before. And for me, it's not it's a driven person. I think like I've always got the drive to succeed in whatever I do and give the best outcomes that I can. But naturally, when you get into it, it's actually like break down those sort of barriers. It's the heartwarming, like, hey, just want to give my kids a cuddle and yeah, look after them and make sure they're okay and looked after really. So I think yeah, it's once all that sort of stuff goes away, and this is it what concerns me, Charles, as well, right? It's when we sell the business at some point later on, and you know, that's when does it stop, right? And I've talked to Gaz a lot about this, is where does that measure of success, and do you keep going, and what does that success looks like? And I think for me, success changes over time. You know, one point it might be like, oh, we've got to do this, and this is what I've got to, you know, focus on going for in the Marines, right? Or I've got to focus on doing that or whatever else. And it's when you don't have that, or when those things don't happen or don't work out, you know, are you still happy being there with yourself first and foremost? And then have you got those right people around you? And I think, you know, me and Gemma talked about this. If and a day, if everything goes away and we lose it all or whatever else, and we've got each other and the kids, then we still have the best of times when we're on the beach. The beach is free, doesn't cost anything. We just go down the beach, play in the sand, play in the waves, and have a great time. And I think as long as you can enjoy those things, then, and you know you've got there to fall back on no matter what, then yeah, the success is a byproduct and a nice to have.
Well, listen, I'm wishing you continued success. I want you to keep keep the momentum going, because it seems like you have a lot going, which is great. Kudos to you. How can people, if they're interested in your services, how can they find you?
Yeah, sure. LinkedIn, I'm quite kind of connected on there. Just type in Oliver Spence or Cybaverse, Cybavers. Unfortunately, like those domains were taken and Transformers, damn it, with the Cyber. But yeah, type in Cybaverse, we come up. We do sort of a lot of speaking engagements and bits and bobs as well. But yeah, really just even if you want to connect about advice or business, I do a lot of work in space of helping veterans get into cybersecurity and that as well. So easiest place for people, just reach out to me on LinkedIn or visit our website. And yeah, we'll be happy to have a chat and see what we can do.
Fantastic, Ollie. Well, listen, I really appreciate you jumping on. I know how busy you are, so this was definitely, I'm grateful that you were able to carve out some time here for me. And I think the audience will get a lot out of this. I know I did, and I'm very appreciative of it. So thank you for that.
No, I appreciate the time and love what you're doing. It's really great.
Well, listen, thanks everyone for watching and listening. The support is greatly appreciated. Check out if you're in need of cybersecurity or any of the other things that Ollie mentioned, please give him, look him up, look up his company, Cybaverse. I'll make sure to have the links in the show notes. So thanks again, everyone. And Ollie, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Cheers. Appreciate it.
Take care, everyone.
This has been the Bare Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.